Hey guys, this is Sarah, and today we're going to talk about marathon reading. I've mentioned a few times in my videos that I consider myself a marathon reader. I figured it'd be a great topic for this series to talk about what marathon reading is, the reasons why I decided to use it as my form of reading, and the pros and cons of reading books in that way. Marathon reading is when you read various books in a series or in a trilogy back to back to back. Most of this is done like once every few months or as part of a readathon. There's a few people that have mentioned it. I know Little Book Owl was marathoning a series or a trilogy a few months ago. It is basically done like a few times throughout the year. Just specific series. The way I do it is that everything I read, absolutely everything I read, I do it back to back to back. The most that I can. Meaning I don't start new series until they're finished. Or at least 3 to 4 books into the series. For example, the Throne of Glass series that I'm reading this month, obviously it's not finished, but there's 3 books and a compilation of novellas, so 4 books in the series, it's okay for me to start it. I'm comfortable starting that series at that point. Something else that I'm reading this month is the Graceling trilogy. It's already finished. It's been finished for a really long time, but I'm starting it now and going from the first book to the last book back to back to back. There are quite a few reasons why I decided to read in this way. First and foremost, that I spent 2.5 years not reading anything at all. From the decision that my family made to move from the United States back to Venezuela, there was 6 months that we were on a very, very tight budget, so I didn't get any new books, and all the books on my shelf I already read. I had no TBR books, so I spent those 6 months not reading anything new and or old. And when I first moved here, obviously all the books are in Spanish, which is a way that I can't read. I can't read in Spanish. It's so complicated. Something else for another topic, but I can't read in Spanish, and it's very, 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 very hard to find books in English, especially young adult books in English. So the first 2 years before I got my Kindle app, I spent not reading. That's 2.5 years of releases, of ended series, of books in the middle that I did not know about. I did not read. I had no clue whatsoever about any of it, okay? So when I first got my Kindle, I realized, oh my gosh, I am so behind on the popular books, on popular series, on popular trilogies. The one that I always get in my mind is the Legend trilogy by Marie Lu. Every time I talk about marathon reading and why I decided it, the first example is like, I did not read that series. I had no idea it existed, okay? No clue it existed. It was even in the world. I didn't know. So I started buying all of those books that were popular in the years that I wasn't reading and getting the whole series, and then I was like, okay, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to do it? There's so many series. I'm talking like 30, more than 30, almost 40 series or trilogies that I haven't read, that pretty much everyone else in the world has read. And it's very intimidating. So I was like, why not just read them all one way through? Not just pick one and then 2 months later get the other one and then 3 months later get the last one. No, let's just sit down and digest the whole thing much faster that way. That was a big thing for me, getting through them as fast as I can, because every year, every month, new series are starting, new series are finishing, new series are on their way to becoming great, and I'm spending all my time reading old series that everyone's already read. I was like, that's not going to work for me. We have to find a way to read them as fast as possible, which brought me to marathon reading. Another great thing about marathon reading is that I don't have to wait for books. there is a waiting period. There's a long waiting period. But that anxiety between one book 1 year and then the other book the other year, I don't have that. It's great. It feels so nice to be rid of that feeling of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? When is it going to come out? And like counting down the days to come out. It gives me much more anxiety than I had probably thought I would ever in my life. And I got rid of it. I decided to read series as a whole, digest them all together, so that waiting between books to come out and for them to be published, it doesn't happen. Those were a few of the reasons why I decided to marathon read. And now I'm going to talk about the pros and cons of marathon reading as a whole, so you can decide for yourself if that's something that you would like to do. One of the pros about marathon reading is, again, I just mentioned it, no waiting for books. You can read them all at once. You don't have to wait a year between the first book or the second book or the third book and the fourth book or anything. There is no waiting. There is no agonizing over that one cliffhanger that author just had to put in there. You get to have it all. With that no waiting for books thing, no anxiety over cliffhangers. You don't have to stop at the top of the mountain and wait a year for the next book to come out so you can digest the ride. You get the whole roller coaster in one fell swoop. You'll cry, you'll laugh, you'll get mad in a certain amount of time. There will be no prolonged anger for a character death. There will be no prolonged sadness for a cliffhanger. There will be none of that. You get the whole experience, the whole roller coaster once. Another pro is something else that I also mentioned. You get to finish series and trilogies faster. You could wait for a 4-book series over 4 years. It would take you 4 years to read a normal 4-book series if you'd have done it the traditional way. When you marathon it, you can finish it in a month, 2 months, tops. 3 if you don't like it that much. You don't have to take forever to start something new. You don't have to take forever to close that series and say, look, another finished series there, that's great. There is none of that. It goes much faster, and because you go much faster finishing old series, you get to start new ones even faster. Unfortunately, when there is pros, there are also cons. And one of the cons about marathon reading is you get really, really behind on fandoms and hype. Now, because you wait for whole series to come out before you read them, if someone, or the whole world, pretty much, everyone, reads the first book in the series and it's fantastic, everyone loves it, you're gonna be left out of the loop. You're gonna feel left out. It sucks, and it's one of the cons that most get on my nerves because you get behind on everything. People will make fandoms, have inside jokes, have quotes that they love from books that you will not understand. Along with that, another con is potential spoilers. People get excited about books. Usually, people who are nice wait a few weeks, a few months before they start talking about a book that came out, sort of to let people catch up, the people around them to catch up, and so we can all talk about it without being spoiled. But for you to catch up, it would take a couple years, and no one's going to wait that long for you. Trust me, no one's going to wait that long. So you have to be very, very careful on social media, because you could easily get spoiled for a book that either just finished, or it's finished a long time ago and you just haven't gotten to it, or that just started and people are raving about it, completely obsessed with it, and talking about it nonstop, and it's very, very dangerous. Another con is waiting to start a good series. When you have your friends, your booktube people, everyone raving about something and talking about it and sharing it with people, waiting can be very, very hard. For example, the Throne of Glass series. I'm finally starting it this month, but when I started booktube, people were talking about that like no other. Air of Fire had just come out, everyone was freaking out, and I had no idea what was going on. And I was like, okay, by that point I decided to do high fantasy in January of 2015, so I was like, okay, just a few months, it's okay, just a few months, I can handle it, but it's still very hard to wait. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on marathon reading and on my reading style. Let me know what you thought of the pros and cons. Let me know if you'd like to start reading this way. I have some tips and tricks if you'd like to know those. Let me know if you think I'm a crazy head for waiting long for series. Just let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!